Today's collectible spot, we are having a look at the Hot Toys MMS 202D04, the Robocop 1/6 scale collectible figure. This comes to us from the movie Masterpiece series diecast line. Actually, the same line that also gave us the War Machine Mark II. And funny enough, the display box, the box that actually the Robocop comes in, is very similar to the one that we got with the Mark II War Machine. Down below we've got Robocop, a 1/6 scale collectible figure, MMS 202-D04. The top of the box has an overlay of Robocop there, which is really a nice touch. Love the way they did that. If we turn the box to the side, we have Robocop holding his Auto 9. And on the back, the cast and crew responsible for bringing Robocop to us. Again, this comes to us from the folks over at Hot Toys Limited. You take the top sleeve off. Inside, you've got yourself a styrofoam box. A styrofoam box that actually has Robocop listed on the front here. Again, very, very similar to what we got with the War Machine, and probably this is what we're going to be seeing with a lot of the die-cast pieces, having them in styrofoam, keeping them nice and protected. You can then take the front panel off, again, being very careful with Robocop, hoping, of course, he's not going to fall. And just taking that out. Got the face plates, we'll have a look at that in a second. The alternate torso piece, we're going to keep that in there for a second as well. And you can see you got Robocop with his alternate hands, his two Auto 9s. It actually comes with two Auto 9s, and of course his alternate helmet. Again, really even getting him out of packaging without getting him out of packaging, he is an absolutely phenomenal piece. You have no idea how long Spot's been waiting for this guy to come out. Having said that, though, Spot's going to take a break. Even though technically he is really there anyways, we're going to take a break. I'm going to get him completely out of box. And when we come back, we're going to get a better look at Robocop. There's more heading your way, guys. Don't go anywhere. Stay tuned. Just before we have a look at Robocop, obviously Spot's going to want to also show you the display base. If you flip around the back of the styrofoam insert that would have been inside the box, there is a plastic tray on the back section here. When you take that off, I'll just put that to the side, just like so. You get yourself the Robocop 1/6 scale collectible figure content user guide. We're going to have a look at that in a second. And the tray also contains, of course, the display stand, the neck for standing Robocop, a couple batteries, and this, a very cool feature, the remote control. The base itself consists of two pieces. The main base, which has a really nice OCP logo on there, and that looks to be Robocop 1 OCP, whereas I think Robocop 2 had the P little stem down below there. Really nice touch. It looks as if it would light up. It actually doesn't light up, and there's Robocop on the bottom of the base there. The neck to put into the display base was more difficult than I was actually expecting. You really have to kind of get it in there, but when in place, you kind of got a more futuristic looking neck than what we've seen with other pieces. Now, the interesting thing about this is this must have been reused from another display stand. The reason why I say that is there's a section where it looks like there would have been a battery compartment right here. And there is actually also a button, or what looks to be the indication that a button would have been on the back of the display stand. I'm wondering if this was actually, and I could be wrong, but I'm wondering if this was maybe used from one of the Terminator pieces, which would be somewhat ironic with Robocop versus Terminator. A really nice display stand, though. Putting that to the side, the contents that you'll also get in that tray is the very cool remote control. It is a similar kind of remote control that we got with Ed 209. There is no batteries actually in here. However, the folks over at Hot Toys have given us 3 batteries, and I'll put those in a second. The last thing you'll get in the tray is this. Now you may ask yourself what this is. I asked myself the very similar question. I'll show you this in a second. This is actually really cool. But let's not really waste any more time. Let's have a look at Robocop himself, and he is a phenomenal piece. There are certain Hot Toy pieces that as soon as I found out that they're being released, I literally like wrote it on the calendar, going to be released on this day. And Robocop was probably near the top of that list. You have absolutely no idea how huge of a Robocop fan Spot was. Loved the original movie, and in fact, way back when, Spot actually remember seeing the poster, because I never saw it in the theater because I would have been too young, but I remember seeing the poster in my local video store, and it captivated me the moment I saw it, and I thought to myself, I have to see this movie, though not suitable for the age that I would have been, but it blew me away, and ever since then I have loved Robocop. Robocop has stumbled, yes, along the way. He hasn't had some decent sequels. Robocop 3 was horrendous, and the Robocop Canadian, made for a TV series, was horrendous as well, but absolutely love Robocop. And this piece is just, it looks, and Hot Toys really are great for this, but it looks like you had taken Robocop from the screen and somehow managed to find the means to shrink him down into a 12-inch 6-scale figure. The end result, though, is just, it is me just basically as a child looking at this and saying to myself, this is Robocop in my eyes. To having a look at his face, I mean, it looks like Peter Weller. And I know with a lot of Robocop properties, the biggest problem with a lot of licenses really as a whole is getting the rights from the actors to be able to use their likeness. And I know Peter Weller was not open to using his likeness for the longest time, which meant when we were getting Robocop pieces, they didn't always look really like Robocop. This is without a doubt Robocop, and this is really without a doubt Peter Weller under that mask. It looks again like it was taken right out of the movie. Now, before Spot gets ahead of himself, I really want to think that if this piece does as well as I hope, that maybe Hot Toys will consider painting this, you know where I'm going to go, painting this in a blue color scheme to give us a Robocop 2 treatment. They really don't have to do very much, and if anything, they could just give us a couple of alternate pieces. But to get this in a Robocop 2 treatment as well, despite the fact that it may very well just be the same figure being released, Spot's going to definitely be picking that up as well. The majority of Robocop is die-cast, which equals a pretty heavy figure. It's about the same weight as what we got with the War Machine, and some aspects, like the one leg, and I'll show you that in a second, why that's not die-cast, but really the most of the legs, the arms, and a lot of the torso pieces are all die-cast metal. Depending on how you want your Robocop presented, Hot Toys got you covered. The inclusion of 3 different mouth plates that we saw at the beginning of this review, each with a different expression that you can put on Robocop. From more the, I always like to consider this the more getting annoyed Robocop. This would have been like the Robocop I always think at the beginning, or probably about halfway through the movie, where he goes to his home that's up for sale and is walking through the virtual guide of his house and starts to get progressively angry and then smashes the monitor. You also get yourself just a more open mouth Robocop. And lastly, for the agonizing Robocop, you also have the open mouth as well. To change to any one of those mouth plates, what you're going to want to do is take the, and I'm surprised actually this is a fairly easy step process, because his mouth technically sits below or inside the helmet cavity. What you're going to want to do is take the helmet, just kind of grab the lower section here and just pop it off. There is a magnet on the underside, inside helmet area there, and what you get is something doesn't quite look like Robocop, but you're going to take the mouth plate, and there are grooves. I don't know if you guys can see it. There are grooves on either side here. You're going to take the mouth and just kind of pinch it, just to kind of move it away from those sections of the mouth guard. And you're just basically going to slide it up. Take the next piece, the next plate that you want to use. For example, let's take Angry Robocop here. And you're just going to put it back in, but you're going to put it in on an angle. So you're going to kind of put it in on an angle like this, because you need to get that mouthpiece below the chin guard, just like so. Then take the helmet once again, put it over top, and you can hear it snapping into place, and you got yourself a very disgruntled Robocop. With this particular expression, I think this is also suitable for if you got the deluxe Robocop set that comes with the chair. Spot didn't get the one with the chair, but if you have him sitting down and you have him dreaming as he did in the movie, this would be also a great face to use for that. While we're actually really even using this mouth plate, what we can also do too is swap out the helmet for the interchangeable damaged helmet that also comes included with Robocop. So what you're going to do is, once again, reach to the top, pull off the helmet, just like so. Put that to the side, and we're going to take the battle damaged helmet, also with magnet inside, and you're just going to snap it over top. And a lot of times, when you put it in, you have to kind of put it and make sure you're putting it over top or more forward than the mouthpiece, and then it should snap right into place. The end result is a Robocop much more badly damaged and suffering an agonizing defeat with his confrontation with not only Dick Jones, but Ed 209, and of course the Detroit Police Department. While we're really sticking with this look as well, let me also show you the alternate chest piece that comes included with Robocop. Very badly damaged. You can see the areas where there's bullet holes riddled across the top there. Some scratches, and there's a section right here too, which I would actually have to go back and rewatch the movie just to see this. There's a section right here with some exposed cords and wires inside. To change this chest is actually quite easy. You're just going to grab onto the chest piece right here, and luckily it's all magnetized. You just take that right off. This section right here, you're probably asking what that's for. Let me show you that in a second. But we're going to take the battle damaged chest piece, and see the magnets up at the top on the shoulders and down there. You're just going to snap it, not even so much snap it, but line it up and fit it into place. And there you got yourself a badly damaged Robocop. With a really cool look like this would really make me consider getting a secondary Robocop, one so I could present him in this damaged look, and one that I can present him in his regular undamaged appearance. To also show you the alternate face plates, there's Robocop with his more... I almost think of it as he's going to get annoyed. Really, you could also use this Robocop for when he's holding the Auto 9. You could have, really, this could be the expression of him shooting at someone. Final look gives us Robocop with a partially open mouth, and I kind of look at this more as the face that he probably would be using when he was using his data link and uploading to the Detroit Police Department database, finding out that he was formerly Alex Murphy, and of course that he was deceased. That actually gives me a good opportunity to show you guys the alternate accessories, the alternate hands that come included with Robocop. For starters, you get yourself the data link, where you can change this out and you can, again, upload to the Detroit Police Department database. And Robocop also comes with a pair of interchangeable hands, where I initially thought that they were just flat palms, which really begged the question, how is he going to hold his weapon, until I took them out and realized that they were all individually articulated. Probably would have preferred had they given us just a regular gun holding hand, as opposed to trying to get the Auto 9 into these articulated fingers. I do like the fact that at least we get articulated hands. To change out Robocop's hand, just reach down below. Very easy to pull out ball joint. And take the other hand. Now, with the data link, be careful, because again, this is just plastic. You don't want to put pressure against it and accidentally bend it. But you can get the data link in place like that. And like I was saying, I think that's a pretty good face for using something like the data link. Again, this is a Robocop that when I look at this face, I think to myself it's more so Robocop's surprised by something that he's discovered. One thing I would say though is when changing out the mouthpieces, do be careful when you're putting them in, because you are essentially taking, let me just pull that off again, because you are essentially taking the mouthpieces and you're putting them in on an angle, they have to clear past this chin guard area. So when you put it in, again, put it in on an angle to make sure you're getting it below that chin piece. I've already noticed actually one piece here, you see right there, it's a little bit scuffed on the chin. And that is probably due to the fact that I couldn't get it under the chin piece the first time or so, and it might have worn a little bit of the paint. So just be a little careful when changing out the mouthpieces. Of course, you couldn't have Robocop without his trusty firearm. And for that, Hot Toys gives you 2 Auto 9s. I was surprised that we actually got 2 Auto 9s, but very different from one another, despite maybe them looking a little bit similar. This one here has a little more of the silver areas around the trigger, whereas this one is just solid black. Now this one here is heavier because it's die cast. This one here is just plastic. Now, I thought to myself, well, why would you include two different Auto 9s? Well, actually, one Auto 9 is intended for his leg holster. The other one is for him holding. The plastic Auto 9 also has a removable clip, which you can pull out and put back in, and we can put that into his hand. To do that, you're just going to move the thumb out of the way. You just have to bend it out of the way here. And you want to get the finger inside the trigger, which was, again, all the more reason why I think if they had only given us an actual gun holding hand as opposed to one that we would have to adjust, I think it would be a little bit easier than trying to adjust the fingers to accommodate the gun. I gotta say though, to having articulated fingers is that you get a much more realistic way that Robocop is going to hold his gun, as opposed to a pre-molded fist, pre-molded open fist where he's going to be holding the gun. This definitely looks more something that would be a realistic approach to have him holding the Auto 9. The thing I want to show you with the Auto 9, which is kind of cool, is the back section actually recoils. So if you had him in mid-firing, you could pose Robocop with the Auto 9 partially back like so, and it would look as if he had just fired off a round. Now when it comes to the die-cast Auto 9, again that's intended for his leg holster. To get that opened up, you're going to reach around to the side of the leg, and there is a little tab right here, a little handle. I don't know if you guys can see it or not. It's this section right here. What you want to do is you're going to take your finger and just kind of use this as a ledge to pull back the leg, and this whole leg section opens up. It doesn't really open up that much further than that, but it's enough to take your die-cast Auto 9 and slide it into place. Closing that up, or actually even if you want to display Robocop with that, you can have it as if he's about to reach down and grab the Auto 9. But to close it up, you're going to just, again, close it, and you want to make sure that you get the leg section past the lower torso or the waist area of him, and it just snaps into place. And there's these little little clips on the sides that kind of keep everything closed and nicely presented. So let's go ahead and revisit the remote control that we were looking at the beginning of this review. Spot's already taken the liberty of putting in the batteries, so the O will allow you to activate the sounds, I'm going to say the lights, but the sound effects for Robocop. There's an on-off switch. I won't turn it on just yet, because what we're going to want to do is take Robocop, spin him around like so, and there is a back section right here that contains the batteries. Now, how would you get those batteries out? Well, reaching off camera, remember this, the little OCP? Well, this is actually a magnet. You're going to take this area of his back, take the magnet, and snap it on like so. Well, don't really snap it on, it's magnetized, but this will allow you to pull the back plate off to have access to the battery compartment. Hot Toys doesn't include a screwdriver with Robocop, but luckily Spot's got one of his little hobby screwdrivers, and we can just unscrew this plate section right here. Being very, of course, careful, as always, not to strip your screw. Just like that. We'll pull the screw out. With the battery cover off, Robocop takes a smaller battery than I was originally expecting. Turns out, if you reference the instruction guide, he requires an LR1 or AM5 1.5 volt battery. A little harder to find. I ended up going to a place that sold batteries, and what I ended up going with was an N2 Performance Enhanced battery, where it's usually designed for things such as cell phones and high-end electronic items. And I think these batteries cost me about $6 or $7, so they weren't overly expensive at all. With the batteries in place, we can put the battery plate cover back on. Of course, you put the battery plate on, make sure you switch the switch to on, and you'll know when you have working batteries.
Serve the public trust, protect the innocent, uphold the law.
As you'll have Robocop recite a phrase from the movie. Robocop recites through 6 phrases from the movie, and for that you'll need your Robocop remote control. Batteries are also installed with the remote on. You're going to want to press the B. Now, both the O and the B are functional buttons, But I'm wondering, because this was reused from the Ed 209, that the frequency has to be different, so pressing the button would determine obviously which piece that you're going to be hitting. So in this case, you're going to press B, and the light will light up on Robocop's remote control and also activate the sound effects on Robocop.
Stay out of trouble. Drop the gun. You are under arrest. Dead or alive, you're coming with me. Come quietly or there will be trouble.
That's one of my favorite.
Thank you for your cooperation. Good night. Serve the public trust. Protect the innocent. Uphold the law.
Now, when it comes to the sound effects for Robocop, I find that he's a lot clearer than what we got with the Ed 209. The Ed 209 had a certain level of distortion to it and didn't really end up sounding like Ed 209. It sounded like something that was maybe recorded after the fact. But Robocop, you get a really clear, very accurate sound than he did have really from the movie. And it also helps too that the sound plate is actually located in the front torso section, again, that we looked at earlier. Because that speaker's in the front, you're projecting a really clear sound that's coming from the front of Robocop. When it comes to the sound effects, I'm really impressed that Hot Toys included sound effects with Robocop. It does beg the question, though, when we do get the eventual Officer Murphy and Battle Damage Robocop, if the Robocop is going to A, even have the sounds, and B, if they're going to be the same sounds that we're getting with this particular Robocop. When it comes to Robocop's articulation, he does have a very nice ball joint, and it appears that he has a ball joint actually in the bottom of his neck and at the top where the head sits in the socket. The end result giving you a very easy to move, very flexible Robocop in the head. His torso is quite interesting in that you just have to pull it and you have quite a bit of movability in the torso. It appears that he has a ball joint in the upper torso section right under his chest plate, and then he also has a secondary ball joint, a little more limited down below here where you can get some extra movement. But Robocop can actually move quite easily in the torso section. I'm quite surprised. As for his arms, you can extend them as is, or what you can also do too is pull the arm further out, and actually even pulling it out slightly, maybe to about there is probably how I'm going to have him displayed anyways, instead of having the arms so close to close to his torso. But you can bring that out, and he has quite a bit of movability in the arms, in and out, back and forth. He does also have a bend at the elbow, a swivel in the wrists, and ball joint in the hand area. Of course, Spot's already looked at the individual articulated fingers, but each finger has a ball joint in 2 of the knuckles. So he has one ball joint right at the bottom knuckle, where the fingers would actually be able to move. And then he has a secondary ball joint right there. And then a third ball joint right at the tip of the finger. Quite a bit of movement considering it's a hand that small. His legs work in a similar way in the fact that as they're kind of limited, but what you can do is pull the leg out, being very careful, pop it out of the socket, and it allows you to move the leg forward, back, and out in a distance that you wouldn't be normally being able to do with Robocop. And that socket just pops right back in. When it comes to his knee is, again, very articulated. Not as articulated as perhaps maybe the elbow, but a nice ratcheted joint in the knee. The feet, if you can call them robo feet, do hinge back and forth. They don't really pivot, and he's got a slight bend in the foot. It's not a permanent bend either. It's only a bend when you want to pose Robocop with the foot bent, because it looks as if it's on a spring. So when you let go of it, it actually just goes back to being in a flat position. One thing to note actually as well is when you look at the very back of Robocop, where he's got the pistons do work as I expected them to be, but the really neat thing too is that the pistons are on their own ball joints. When I took Robocop out, one of these actually had popped out, and I thought I had broken it until I realized later that they are actually on their very own ball joint. A really nice touch, and I wasn't expecting those to be there. For Robocop's final look, Spot's got him on his display stand, which is probably how I'm going to end up having him displayed in my cabinet. I am absolutely loving this piece. There was a wish list of things that I wanted to see Hot Toys produce, and Robocop would be right at the very top of that list. getting him now physically in hand and seeing him in hand, he turned out better than I could have possibly had hoped. The accessories, while not a lot, are all accessories that would make sense to be included with Robocop. Robocop down the road is also going to be released in a 2-pack with a Officer Murphy and a more battle damage Robocop, where we're going to get an unhelmeted version of Robo, and that's going to be a figure I'm going to want to add to my collection as well. This figure, standing at past, well, he's over $300 price point for him being die cast, I would say is worth it. This is the kind of figure that, to get it in plastic treatment, and I'm kind of seeing that now when going back and looking at the Iron Man pieces, as gorgeous as those Iron Man pieces are, to see where we've gone to with the Mark 42, the War Machine Mark II in die-cast metal, I'm glad that they went with die-cast for Robocop. He's not completely die-cast, but he's got enough die-cast pieces to him that give him that weight that Robocop so deserves. Spot can't really recommend this guy any more than I have. He is, if you are a fan of not only just really Robocop, but like 80s movies, you have to get this guy in your collection. Now, he is over $300 because he is die cast and all, so he is a little more expensive than a conventional 6-scale figure. Having said that, your best bet is where Spot gets a lot of his pieces from. I would go to sideshowcollectibles.com. I'm going to provide the link down below. The beauty of it, too, is a $300 figure. If it seems a little steep for your budget, you can certainly space them out in installment plans. And that's what I've actually done with a lot of the pieces that I've picked up. I've broken them up into installment plans, so the outright $300 price point for Robocop isn't as steep. Having said that, though, $300 I think is more worth it, definitely worth it for a piece this spectacular. He is going to be sitting at the very front of my display case. Unfortunately, he's going to be blocking all the other Hot Toys pieces that I have on that shelf, but I'm afraid Robocop just deserves it. He is a phenomenal piece. Today's collectible spot, just wow. Spot was having a look today at the Hot Toys Robocop 1/6 scale figure. Stay tuned, guys. Spot's going to have more collectible spots heading your way, more Hot Toys reviews certainly heading your way as well. Thanks for watching as you always do. I'll see you next time.